he has to run away.
So Alaji, makes the point that he believes that Otumfuo was being very wise.
Very wise.
To make sure that anything that happened in the thereafter, he could dissociate himself. That, look, this is not how I trained the man. Mm-hmm. Honestly, as I watched his posture, I think Otumfuo wasn't just trying to dissociate himself. I think I want to give him some more credit and say he was being very serious. If you look at his facial contortions, it was like, this is a nephew, this is a son of the land, and I'm telling you, you've gotten yourself into a privileged position. From this point, be very cautious. I think Otumfuo was trying to set the platform, as Yao has said, wipe the slate clean and give him an opportunity to move forward. However, before Otumfuo, we had Prophet Yankson. How many of us remember Kojo Yankson a week earlier and said that, look, this is a disaster waiting to happen. And somehow, and that's the problem I have, it looks like our political elite, especially those in government, are not listening. What is happening and they are refusing to listen to anyone, I don't know. Refusal to listen. They didn't listen. Yankson said categorically, the way this man talks, this thing is dead on arrival. And within 1 week, it didn't even take 1 week. This is what has happened. Mm-hmm. I think we want to remind them that, please, if you've been looking at the electoral fortunes of the parties, no party has more than 50%. All parties have a core constituency of, let's say, 40 to 42%. There's about 15 to 17% floating voters who you need to cut. The neutrals. People who are independent and making up their mind and swinging.
We are here.
And we are here. Yes, absolutely. We are here. So that idea that, the core ethnic grouping is sufficient for you to cross the line is a mirage. I think what bothers me the most is the ethical deficit that we are seeing across board. The issues we've been talking about, the inconsistency. In opposition, you say one thing. You make promises. We'll do the economy this, we'll do the economy that. Then you get into office, you don't fulfill any of the promises. You come back on a presidential ticket and you're expecting us to follow you. What are we talking about? One moment you insist on your position, I'm right. I will not apologize. Kwame Nkrumah didn't do that. Then you come up with an apology and you expect us to believe you. Why should we believe you?
Why are you not believing?
Integrity, honesty, respect. If he had respect for all the other presidential candidates, all the people who have served this country, you don't get on a platform and you make comments that suggest that they had nothing to offer to this country. You know your own candidacy depends on the votes of Ghanaians. You are cautious about how you offend other constituencies. Honesty, respect, integrity, ethical deficiencies. So I'm worried, and I'm saying just like Martin was saying, when we go to the voting booth, look out for Ghanaians who have shown consistent ethical positions, knowing what is right, doing what is right, and influencing others to do what is right. That's what we should be voting for. Don't vote for people who have said one thing and not stood up to stand for that. But they have not delivered on their promises.
If that's the yardstick you're going to be using, which political grouping would pass the test?
I don't know why I'm talking about political grouping. We are looking for candidates.
Or which candidate will pass? Because, well, there's always been that path, and we're on it, where statements have been made in the past, and it's always brought up, and the inconsistencies juxtaposed, one against the other. So if you're talking about that being the ethical standard for the selection of leaders in this country, who's going to pass the test?
The truth of the matter is this. The least we would expect is that when you have made something wrong, you come back to the people, offer an apology, and give us the remedy of what you do going forward. That is the challenge we face. People are not willing to accept that we have failed, we have made a mistake, and you know what is happening in Kenya now? What is Ruto doing? He is accepting where things have gone wrong, taking the necessary actions in there now. Not giving a pushback, pretending, until Labour says that, we are jumping onto the streets, nothing, then all of a sudden you decide that you backtrack. What kind of ethical position is that? At least acknowledge that you are doing something wrong, come to the people, sit with your stakeholders, come up with solutions and strategies. That's what we are expecting. When you are able to look at a candidate where anytime an issue was raised, they were willing to come to the table, talk about it, sanction when necessary, come up with remedies, sitting with stakeholders. Now we are talking about serious candidature for leadership in this country. Then we are sure that going forward, we'll make progress.
Has any of the candidates given you the assurance, especially in the fight against corruption, what they are going to do? Because this was a question that came up during that encounter with John Mahama.
No.
And he indicated that, look, to the extent that he was branded as the most corrupt president, and now no prosecution has been brought up against him, and he's come back to seek re-election, tells you that it was all for the politics of it. Let's take a look at that, and I'll find out from you what citizens should be looking out for, especially going into this election with this campaign of corruption. Whether it's just for the politics of it, or there is some ethical basis or some basis of fact to it. Take a look.
A lot of allegations were thrown against me. I've been out of office for 7 years and 7 months. You think that if this government had anything they could stand on with how they hate my persona, they would not have prosecuted me for it. Airbus, the president referred it to the OSP, and the OSP is supposed to investigate it. You don't expect me to investigate myself.
Well, so, Mr. Senanu, would you fault him for this sense of vindication?
Let me put it this way. Clearly, the government in opposition, the party in opposition at the time, trumped up the corruption issues and used it as a platform to get into power. It was clear. I mean, issues had arisen. I had been reflecting on the SADES, the GDES, the bus branding issues that came up. And I find that, to a certain extent, the Mahama government made much more effort to address issues, because bus branding, they renegotiated, whichever Smarties or so paid by 1.5 million or so. Eventually, Jifa Ativo resigned. JIDA contracts were cancelled. SADA contracts again were cancelled. People have, yes.
15 million.
Yes. And so there's a certain responsiveness that happened. However, as I've listened to President Mahama, I still see a gap. It looks like the immediate remedial actions have been taken. But have we learned in terms of what are the preventive actions? How come these things happened in those sectors? What are we going to do differently to prevent them from reoccurring?
You haven't heard that?
I haven't heard that.
Okay.
And so I worry. That's the gap I see. Because in our space, for anti-corruption and good governance, we say prevention is much more important than prosecution or chasing the money after it's gone out. So, yes, there seems to be an advantage, but we have not yet nailed it, and would like to hear the candidates talking about learning. How are we learning so that we perform much better going into the future? That would be my question.